Holy moly, Europe. You are officially on notice. Tea just dropped, and it's scalding. Washington's breakup manifesto and the dawn of the Savage Alliance. Listen up, my global squad. You absolutely will not believe the sheer, unadulterated audacity that just landed on the world stage. Washington just unveiled its new national security strategy, NSS. And honey, it's not a strategy. It's a breakup letter delivered via a tactical missile launch aimed squarely at T. Wait for it. Europe. I'm serious. This 33-page masterpiece of passive-aggressive policy is more dramatic than my last Tinder date. Forget everything you thought knew about the Transatlantic Alliance. That relic is officially in the dustbin of history, right next to dial-up modems and sensible foreign policy. This document isn't just turning the page. It's lighting the whole damn book on fire and posting the ashes on Instagram with the caption, #NewVibeAlert. The air is thick with diplomatic outrage, the kind that makes you clutch your pearls and refresh Twitter every 2 seconds. The core message isn't subtle. It's a neon sign flashing. You're a problem, not a partner. We are witnessing a seismic shift, transatlantic earthquake that's shaking the very foundations of the post-war liberal order. Let's deep dive into this policy carnage. The new vibe from Uncle Sam. It's giving you're not that important anymore and please fix yourself. Let's dissect this manifesto, shall we? You know a document is trouble when it mentions Europe, like 50 times, not in a we love you way, but in a we're not mad, we're just disappointed, and also you're failing kind of way. The rhetoric is absolutely unhinged, the kind of stuff you usually only read on the deep, dark corners of the internet, now signed, sealed, and delivered by the White House. First, there's the sheer, breathtaking nerve of the language used, which is what's causing the biggest meltdown, the civilizational erasure kicker. They literally claim Europe is in danger of civilizational erasure and needs to regain its civilizational self-confidence. Excuse me. Is this an NSS or a self-help book written by a grumpy grandpa obsessed with the good old days? The document positions the United States not merely as a security partner, but as the world's chief cultural critic and moral diagnostician, and the diagnosis is terminal decline. Traces this impending collapse directly to 2 culprits: unregulated migration and the wicked autonomous sapping ways of the EU's supranational institutions. The language goes so far as to blame the EU for actively subverting democratic processes and undermining liberty and sovereignty. This is pure, unadulterated culture war messaging, dressed up in military uniform and bearing the presidential seal. The implication is crystal clear. Europe's leaders are too weak, too globalist, and too obsessed with diversity to save themselves. And America, the self-proclaimed bastion of civilization, is here to stage an intervention, not just politically, but culturally. This leads us to the burden-shifting swindle, which is just the new name for the security dump. The NATO promise? Ancient history. The New Deal is formalized under the title Burden Sharing and Burden Shifting. Translation, you're on your own. Ow. Boo, and we're moving our things out. Washington is making it a formal policy priority to de-emphasize areas not critical to U.S. security, which, by the way, is a massive, humiliating downgrade for our European allies. The U.S. explicitly wants to enable Europe to stand on its own feet, including by taking primary responsibility for its own defense. This isn't constructive criticism. It's an exit strategy disguised as empowerment, signaling that U.S. military protection is no longer a given, but a negotiable. Transactional service to be priced and weighed against commitments in the Pacific. It's the ultimate commercialization of security. But the biggest slap in the face is the pick-a-side intervention, which is the diplomatic equivalent of cheating. They are openly signaling that they will interfere in democratic elections by siding with patriotic parties, like Germany's AfD, stating that the goal is to cultivate resistance to Europe's current trajectory by supporting far-right movements. This is not diplomacy. This is gossiping with your bestie's worst enemy at a party. It is an unprecedented aggressive move. The NSS highlights U.S. officials praising groups like the AfD, despite these parties routinely challenging liberal democratic norms and being viewed as fringe by much of the European mainstream. When the U.S. government is officially praising parties like the AfD, while simultaneously criticizing the EU for undermining liberty, the irony is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. The message is simple. We like the nation state, and we hate your centralized bureaucracy. They are essentially saying, we prefer your political opposition to your current leadership. Throwback Thursday, was the alliance ever that sacred? The illusion shattered. Now, for those of us who actually read history, we have to ask, was the transatlantic relationship ever really the romantic comedy they made it out to be? Or was it always a deeply asymmetrical arrangement? The decades-long narrative was one of sacred unity, but let's be real. Everyone knew the US was actually in charge. Previous administrations, even those who demanded better cost-sharing, operated within the framework of collective security, meaning the basic underlying promise of mutual defense was sacrosanct. What's fundamentally different now is the ideological undercurrent. The previous system was based on a commitment to shared democratic values, even if there were trade disagreements. This new NSS replaces that foundation entirely with transactional realism and a hard-right cultural ideology. It's crucial to understand the magnitude of this shift. This isn't a mere shift in military budgeting. This is the equivalent of your spouse changing all the locks, selling your car, and inviting their ex to move into the guest room, all while claiming it's for your civilizational growth. This policy shift proves that the sacred alliance was always contingent on America's shifting ideological whims. The shock across Europe confirms that they mistook a paternalistic guarantee for a partnership of equals. The why, though? Analysis. What's fueling this fire? It's MAGA doctrine, not just policy. Why did this bombshell drop now? This isn't just about an impulsive president. This is a whole love government policy document, meticulously crafted to be the official doctrine. It's about MAGA ideology being etched into official state doctrine designed to have staying power long after this administration is gone. The core belief fueling this is an extreme interpretation of America first, rooted in a profound distrust of multilateralism. The argument is that supranational institutions like the EU inherently weaken the sovereign nation state, and therefore must be dismantled or bypassed. It's a worldview where zero-sum transactionalism replaces shared values. The administration views the world as a harsh marketplace where any gain for an ally, particularly a bureaucratic one like the EU, is a potential loss for the US. Furthermore, the document screams that the US is tired of policing Europe's drama because of the pivot to Asia obsession. Europe is explicitly categorized as a peripheral region, a distraction from the real game of global hegemony against China's military and economic rise. By forcing Europe to handle its own defense, the US aims to free up vast resources, ships, jets, personnel, to focus squarely on the Indo-Pacific. This is a cold, calculated move. Europe's security is now simply a negotiable asset in the larger geopolitical chess game. And perhaps the most cynical tool of all is the culture war weaponized. By focusing on migration and civilizational erasure, the US is taking the far right's playbook and using it as a tool of foreign policy. It is leveraging deep, existing, and very real anxieties in European societies, which are struggling to manage migrant flows, to justify intervening in European democracy. The document is essentially offering a political alliance based not on shared democratic institutions, but on a shared hostility to immigration and centralized political power. This strategy is designed to divide and conquer, creating a deep ideological schism between Brussels and Washington. The hot takes from the main players: shade level 100 and clutching pearls. You know the drama is real when the diplomats start throwing shade in public. The reactions across the globe confirm that this is a crisis of trust. The Europeans are trying to be cool, but they are absolutely fuming. Official EU response was muted, focusing on independence and minimizing the shift. But the German government's reaction was pure politeness, layered over pure rage. We reject the partly critical tones against the EU. Political freedoms belong to the fundamental values of the European Union. This shows that the outrage wasn't just about military spending. It was about the US trying to dictate their internal cultural and identity politics. But the most iconic response came from Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who posted on X, "Dear American friends, Europe is your closest ally, not your problem, unless something has changed." That last line, a rhetorical slap in the face. Tusk, speaking for many Central and Eastern Europeans, desperately wants confirmation that the US hasn't completely abandoned the foundational post-war security pact. On the US side, there's the silence of vindication from the MAGA squad, who are simply saying, "Duh, we told you so." The quiet confidence on the American side stems from the belief that they are being tough-minded realists, cutting the US free from obsolete commitments. Meanwhile, the far-right fan club is over the moon. The AfD in Germany and similar parties across Europe are thrilled because the strategy explicitly validating their concerns about migration gives them an unprecedented boost in legitimacy and a direct high-level in with the White House. This is a massive political gift to the European far-right, and it's terrifying the moderate opposition. Sipping tea with the adversaries, the Kremlin is loving this, and China is quietly taking notes. If you want to know who the real winners are, just follow the cheers. This NSS is essentially a Russian wish list, and Moscow is celebrating. The strategy completely omits mentioning Russia's unprovoked full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and instead, it blames European governments for extending the war against the alleged wishes of their citizens. Furthermore, it suggests ending the perception of NATO expansion a core, non-negotiable Russian demand. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov wasted no time, announcing that the adjustments correspond in many ways to our vision. The US is essentially handing Russia a modest guarantee of continued cooperation, prioritizing strategic stability with Russia over the values-based alliance with Europe. This is the definition of driving a wedge between allies, and Moscow is sending thank you notes. As for China, while the strategy frames them as the main economic competitor, calling for action against China's excess capacity, the US's own transactional nature, willingness to burn bridges with historical allies to focus on its own self-interest mirrors the Chinese philosophy of realpolitik. Beijing is watching closely, seeing an opportunity to deepen its economic ties with a Europe that feels politically abandoned by Washington. The devastating irony is that in trying to pivot away from Europe to focus on China, the US is adopting a strategic logic that strengthens the very autocratic models it claims to oppose. It's a global digital pulse. What the haters and lovers are saying online. While the official diplomatic language is structured, the global chatter online is pure chaos. The consensus among the liberal establishment is that the NSS is a veiled threat of regime change designed to put patriotic parties into power. The outrage isn't just political. It's personal. Europeans feel their identity is being pathologized by their oldest ally. This sense of abandonment is triggering a counter-movement across Europe to finally, truly achieve strategic autonomy. Figures like French President Macron are feeling vindicated, seeing this as the final proof that Europe must grow up and defend itself. This may be the document that finally pushes Europe toward its own defense budget, its own security structures, and its own cohesive foreign policy, and outcome that ironically might strengthen the EU's supranational power. Exactly what the NSS intended to destroy. Crucially, the new era is one of frenemyship, where the US and Europe must cooperate pragmatically on issues like China while actively disagreeing, perhaps even competing on the future of democracy and culture. The political challenge is immense. How do you manage a partnership where your friend is simultaneously trying to sabotage your internal political life? The final drop: you can't unsend this text, but Europe can hit reply. So, what is the final word on this? This NSS is a declaration of ideological war on the fundamental principles of the European Union: liberalism, cosmopolitanism, and multilateral integration, and a formal endorsement of the nationalist anti-migration forces seeking to reshape the continent from within. The transatlantic relationship is not dead, simply reincarnated as an uneasy, transactional, politically fraught coexistence. Europe has been served the cold, hard truth. Washington is no longer its unconditionally loyal ally. It's a judgmental, unpredictable partner who's now actively dating its rivals. The challenge now is managing a relationship where its supposed closest friend is actively trying to cultivate resistance to its existence. Buckle up, buttercups. The New World Order is here, and it's savage. What's the pettiest line from this NSS you think Europe should use in their official response? Let me know in the comments.